This video is about 7-5 dividing a whole number by a decimal. In these types of problems, the decimal number will come second, so your divisor will be a decimal. In this case, you need to first put your numbers inside and outside of your little house. In yesterday's lesson, we could have a decimal on the inside, and we would just bring the decimal point straight up at the end of solving. However, you cannot have a decimal on the outside, so your divisor cannot have a decimal in it. So in order to get rid of the decimal, what I'm going to do is move it over to the right one time, which is the same as multiplying by 10. Whatever you do outside, you need to do to this inside number. So there's the decimal point hiding right here after the 80. Since I moved this decimal point to the right once, if I move this decimal point to the right once and add a 0, it will cancel each other out. So then if I solve the problem, 800 divided by 32, it will be the same thing. When I'm done, I won't need to go back and add a decimal point or anything. So now I can simply solve this problem. 32 can't go into 8, but it goes into 80 twice, which is 64. Then I'm going to subtract these numbers to get 16, and I bring down my 0. 32 can go in to this about 4 or 5 times. Let's see what we would get. 4 times 32 is 128. 32 times 5 is exactly 160. So I'm going to put my 5 up here, and my final answer is just 25. Because I moved the decimal over to the right in this number and in this number, it cancels each other out, so we are good to go. I don't need to go back and change anything about my answer of 25. Here's another example. 216 divided by 0.03. Again, we cannot have a decimal on the outside. Sometimes it's confusing to remember where can you have a decimal, because you can have one inside but not outside. The way I remember it is that think of this little visor here as like your house, okay? The 216 is inside the house, but if it's outside the house, on this outside, a decimal is so super tiny that it's going to get super cold. It's too cold out there for a decimal. So you can have decimals inside the house, but not on here on the outside because it's too cold. That's how I remember it. So now you can move your decimal over. In this case, I actually need to move it over to the right twice. So whatever I do to that outside number, I have to cancel it out by doing it to the inside number. 216 has a decimal point hiding there at the end, and I need to move this to the right 2 times and add 2 zeros. So now I'm really just doing the problem. 21,600 divided by 3. This is the same exact thing as doing 216 divided by 0.03. So I'll get the same answer, the correct answer. I won't have to go back and change anything at the end. 3 can't go into 2, but it goes into 21 exactly 7 times. When I bring down my 6, 3 goes into 6 twice with nothing left, and then I just need to fill this space in with zeros. My final answer is 7,200. We talked about number sense in 7-3. If your second number, your divisor, is really small, your answer is going to be really big. So the fact that it's 7,200 makes sense. Here's another example. I have 720 divided by 1.2. It's too cold outside the house for a decimal, so I need to move this to the right once. And inside, I need to do the same thing to cancel out what I just did on the outside. Now I have the problem 7,200 divided by 12, and I'm good to go. 12 can't go into 7, but it goes into 72 6 times, and that's exactly 72. Bring down my 0. 12 cannot go into 0 or 0. So I get my final answer of 600. So basically, When the decimal's on the outside, all you need to do is multiply by 10, which is the same thing as moving the decimal spot over, to the outside number, your divisor, and the number inside, the dividend. When you do it the same amount of times to the divisor and the dividend, it cancels each other out. And then you can divide like normal and get your final answer. I want you to try the problem 106 divided by 0.05. Make sure you show your work on your blue sheet. Good luck!